Greatest mysteries of ancient China. Number 10. Sanxing discovery. Before the modern-day economic juggernaut we know as China existed, there was ancient China. China is still a country deeply rooted in tradition from their past, which is quite shrouded in mystery. It isn't always easy to trace back their origins, and with the mysterious discovery of a lost civilization recently in the province of Sichuan, it might make things even more difficult. Archaeologists have believed that the relics we see here are from the Shu Kingdom, who lived along the Yellow River. Some gold-plated figures like you see here date back to 1200 BC. They possessed advanced bronze-making techniques well ahead of their time, and were able to craft unbelievable sculptures with this metal. This one here is known as the Bronze Tree, made from completely bronze. Other bronze sculptures have taken a very bizarre appearance and do not resemble typical Asian people, but normally with huge ears, large eyes, and straight noses. This archaeological dig site remains one of the most mysterious finds in the 21st century, and no one can say exactly how this culture disappeared, or if they were even from this planet. Number 9. Chinese dragons. It's difficult to come by a culture who is so fascinated with dragons to the point where they actually believe they exist. Chinese dragons take a more snake-like appearance than we see in Europe and are often more colorful. The ancient Chinese believed that they were actually descendants of dragons, and somehow humans evolved from this creature. This most likely came from uncovering fossil remains of dinosaur bones, which would then be used as traditional medicine. The Shang Kingdom, however, would use these as oracle bones in order to communicate with ancestral spirits, which were the earliest evidence of Chinese characters. Since China practiced a form of ancestor worship in ancient times, and still does in some cases, dragons play a huge role representing spiritual energy in artwork. Could this mythical creature possibly exist in China like much of the folklore and detailed descriptions would suggest? Number 8. The tombs of Wanghua. Archaeologists came across a startling discovery in central China that dates back to 2,000 years ago. They found the remains of 113 people randomly scattered throughout the landscape. This is found in the Hebei province that surrounds Beijing that might have been in the area of an ancient city called Fudi, which hasn't been discovered yet. The burial practices included placing the body inside an urn with a small hole that would allow the spirit to exit. Another strange part about this find was that it was comprised of 107 children and only 6 adults. Number 7. Sculptures of the Hongshan culture. China is a vast country and home to many different people that covers over 200 individual dialects. The Hongshan culture was a Neolithic civilization that dates back from 4700 BC to 2900 BC. One of their mysterious sculptures also portrays a dragon, but in an embryonic state and made from jade. These are known as pig dragons and were found alongside burial sites. It's still somewhat of a mystery whether or not these were the first depictions of dragons in Chinese culture, which would be interesting considering that it's in a fetal state. These weren't the only strange sculptures archaeologists came across either. Scholars have been debating over decades now what these remarkable sculptures were meant to represent. Some find them strange enough to actually consider that this civilization made contact with extraterrestrials. Number 6. Earthquake detection. Did the Chinese really possess the first seismograph, making them able to predict and detect huge earthquakes, or have we misinterpreted this artifact? China sits along major fault lines that can cause massive amounts of destruction, so being able to predict or detect earthquakes would allow a civilization to prepare for a disaster. What you see here is what many people believe is an ancient Chinese seismograph built in 132 AD, which will allow them to record the case of even the smallest earthquake. It's about 3 feet across with 8 small dragons. Each dragon would carefully have a ball balanced in its mouth, which would then drop into the mouth of a frog if any movement was detected. However, the exact mechanism that is used to drop the ball into the frog's mouth is still unknown. Number 5. Secrets of the Great Wall. Also known as the largest cemetery in the world, millions lost their life for this unbelievable landmark that stretches an estimated 4,000 miles. That's almost like building a wall from Orlando, Florida, all the way to Juneau, Alaska. During the rule of Emperor Qin Shi Huang, he ordered that those who die be buried into the wall itself, meaning approximately 400,000 people. What would cause the Chinese to build such a great wall, and what kind of things were they trying to protect themselves from? You would figure these massive mountains would be high enough to keep people from coming in. Many parts of the wall date back to 2,200 years ago, well before the invading hordes of the Mongols. It's also believed that 1/3 of the wall simply vanished without a trace, and parts of it are still being discovered. It's built from stones from the mountains, and when it reaches the desert, it's made of mud bricks. Many consider it to be the greatest defensive structure ever built. Many questions about this place will forever go unanswered, but you mostly have to wonder what the invaders were like who were attacking China. Number 4. Chinese ancient medicine. China has received quite a bit of criticism for their practices of traditional medicine, which might include parts of endangered animals. However, even in ancient times, they seem to possess some advanced knowledge of how all kinds of plants, herbs, and various remedies can treat people. Researchers at Harvard University still have been studying herbs and roots used in Chinese medicine and how they've been so effective. Some studies have shown that they're even more powerful than we could have possibly imagined. Other things such as acupuncture actually began around 6000 BC. How could anyone have possibly imagined sticking sharp needles into someone could actually cure someone's ailments? The practice of acupuncture died down in the 1600s and was seen as a superstitious practice. However, modern research has shown it to be useful and mysteriously effective. Could China's population growth have some link to their natural remedies used in ancient times? Number 3. The tomb of Emperor Qin Shi Huang. The discovery of the Terracotta Army was one of the greatest archaeological discoveries ever, and is still a huge mystery. The greatest mystery, however, is what lies behind the closed chamber of the final resting place of Emperor Qin Shi Huang. The Chinese government claims at its best that it just remains a mystery. There's been various reasons why they don't want to go inside the tomb. Firstly, they believe that exposing the room to oxygen once again could cause all the painting inside the tomb to lose any of its coloring. This is similar to what happened to every one of the 6,000 terracotta soldiers. The Chinese are very superstitious and believe that a horrible curse will be passed upon to those who open the tomb. Some believe there's also an ancient moat made of liquid mercury that will poison anyone who dares to enter. Soil samples around the tomb have high levels of mercury, indicating the existence of the moat. The treasures of the extremely wealthy emperor could be like nothing we've ever seen before. But is it worth the risk? Number 2. Gunpowder. The very first explosive substance we know as gunpowder certainly is one of ancient China's most impactful inventions. It's also been very destructive. You have to wonder how they came across such a revolutionary mix of chemicals, and if they had any idea how this stuff would end so many lives. It was believed to have first been invented in the 9th century, which was mostly used for fireworks or for putting on shows. A few centuries later, after the invasion of the Mongolians, Chinese began to use them for grenades. For the longest time, invading armies would ponder the mystery behind these seemingly spontaneous explosions. The Mongolians appear to be responsible for spreading it across Asia. Later on, there's also the development of the hand cannon, which is basically that, a cannon held in your hands. These were often more dangerous to the users than the target. Ever since gunpowder has been invented, the weapons of war have forever changed, and you have to wonder what Earth would be like if this was never discovered. And number 1. Greek-Chinese relations. Some archaeologists believe that they might have figured out how China was able to construct the Terracotta Army. A BBC documentary presents the theory of ancient Greece making contact with the Chinese, well before Marco Polo ever set foot in Asia. The Greeks are known for sculpting large, beautiful, lifelike statues of humans, while the Chinese mainly just had figurines of dragons or people at that time until the Terracotta Army was constructed. Other DNA samples tend to show European DNA in isolated provinces and in the region where the tomb was constructed. Greek artwork tended to be much more detailed, and they were also masters at building these statues. Could they have made contact with the Chinese and shared some of their techniques? Under Alexander the Great, they were able to make it as far as India, and there seems to be an actual possibility of them making contact with China.